Welcome to Your Thoughts, Your Reality with Michael Cole, the podcast that shines a compassionate light on the journey of veterans battling through life's challenges. Michael is a dual elite certified neuroencoding specialist in coaching and keynote training presentations, dedicated to guiding military veterans as they navigate the intricate pathways of post-deployment life. Join him as we delve into the profound realm of neuroencoding science, empowering these brave individuals to conquer universal battles, procrastination, self-doubt, fear, and more. Together, let's uncover the strength within you to re-engage with families and society, forging a new path forward.
Hello, everybody. We have today one of my favorite people. We have Annette Ramrattan. She's a New Yorker. She's the identity illuminator and a certified elite neuroencoding specialist, brain health trainer, and so much more. She owns Passionate Living. And Annette, thank you so much for being here. So glad we made this time. Tell us a little bit about yourself. I know you, but our guests and our listeners don't. So share.
Well, thank you for having me, Michael. I think you're amazing. Congratulations on your podcast. I am also a neuroencoding specialist and a brain health trainer from New York. My story started with anxiety, panic attacks, not understanding what was happening. And while I was going through that, I'm a professional as an accountant. So I have a degree and worked in corporate America for many years. So on the outside, I looked like I had it all together, right? You see those people walking down Wall Street, suited up. And so I had that great exterior look, but I was the internal turmoil that was happening. I kept it hidden very well for a while until it became unbearable. So that's what started my path in personal development.
Very good. Thank you for sharing that. So, maybe what's the difference? We're going to talk about multiple things here. I'm excited about this conversation. So let's jump in if we can. First, your dad served military for over 30 years?
Yes, Army.
Army? Excellent. My dad was in the Army as well. Very cool.
Captain.
There you go. So let's start. Again, we talked about a lot of stuff off camera we're going to talk about. Let's start with the importance of brain health. And then we're going to dive into how that connects to, managing anxiety and panic attacks and so forth. So for our veterans coming out of the military or still in the military for that matter, that are conditioned not to ask for help and to figure it out on their own and, asking for help is weakness and those kinds of things. How important is brain health to them? And to all of us, but I'm asking for veterans specifically.
I think it's extremely important when it comes to our well-being, right? So using Dr. Amen's terms, so Dr. Amen, if your brain's not right, you're not right. And many of us feel like if you don't know what you don't know. So in sharing my story where I suffered from anxiety and panic attacks, there was many years where I did not know what was happening. So it wasn't as mainstream as it is now, where, you can Google and, again, your social media, there's anxiety and different things you can listen to and get information fairly quickly now. Aging myself, it wasn't as frequent.
Don't do it, Annette. Don't do it.
It wasn't a common term back then. And I was dealing with it, again, as I said in the beginning, I was hiding it and I had no answers. So literally a decade of my life, from what I can remember, was my first panic attack. It wasn't a panic attack. It was like, oh, something weird happened where I felt like I'm dying kind of thing, right? And I went to my medical doctor and she did all the normal tests and said, we don't find anything. So then, right, I left there with, again, no answers. And not to, if you have 3 hours to stay on this call, I can tell you the whole story, but we'll
do 3 different sessions. Don't worry about it. Just go.
We'll cut it short. so dealing with the anxiety, it was very sporadic. So they didn't happen often. So because it was sporadic, I would brush it away and say, okay, the doctor said everything's fine, so there's nothing to worry about. And it would happen again, and it would kind of like knock me on my knees. But anyone who suffered with anxiety attack, it happens quickly, but the aftershock, right? The after effects are like, you're left with like feeling really depleted. So with that being said, during that time, I was going for my accounting degree at the time, right? So I was working full time, going for my accounting degree, dealing with anxiety, dealing with panic attacks, and the big one, I call it the big one. So I was running late for school, and I had what I call a massive panic attack, where I ended up getting rushed to the emergency room.
Annette, really quick, I'm sorry. Can I ask you, just for our listening audience and so on, the difference between anxiety and a panic attack?
Okay. So anxiety there's good anxiety, there's normal anxiety, right? There's anxiety like excitement, your heart is racing, that's good. You're excited about, or even a job interview, right? Your heart starts, that's normal anxiety. But when the anxiety is overwhelming and it's taking over, and it gets to that level where a panic attack is the physical things and it's different. So people who suffer with panic attacks, you can have a conversation with them and they'll say, well, I had the, pulse, the heart that felt like it was going to jump out of my chest. I had shakes, I had this, I had that. So for me, it would get to the point where, because I wasn't in a breath. So, speak to anyone about anxiety. It even starts, one of the key things is centering your breath to get through it faster, versus staying in that fear. And then you're like hyperventilating and it just gets worse and worse. So because I didn't know what I know now, I would let it escalate to that point and literally lose sight. So I wasn't breathing right, not enough oxygen to my brain. I would lose sight. So when all this happened and I was rushed to the emergency room, it happened within three times in 2 months. I was rushed to the emergency room, and someone finally said, hey, have you ever heard of anxiety? And I was like, no. And then she said, well, that falls under mental health. We suggest you speak to someone. And then, what happens for me in that point was that stigma. There's that stigma behind that word, mental health, that term, mental health. Like, how can this be? I have it all together. Like, that can't be me. So it's just someone who is dealing with anxiety. That's normal, fine. If anxiety is taking over, speak to someone. And if anxiety gets to the point of panic attacks, then there are things, aside from speaking to someone, then there are things you can do to learn how to like mitigate them, or even stop the panic attacks before they get full blown. Perfect.
Thank you. And thank you for sharing. It's not always easy for people to be vulnerable and tell their stories. And thank you, for doing that, because it helps when people can connect and say, hey, I'm not alone and I go through this too, right? So thank you for being vulnerable and having this conversation. I appreciate it. So let me ask you, as far as you're having anxiety, you're getting more anxious, you feel like it's going into a panic attack, what are the patterns that people can sometimes recognize so that they can divert? And I think this is what's going to take us into our next segment anyway. What are some patterns, especially with veterans? There's all kinds of different levels, right? And their family members too. I mean, it's a human condition, obviously. So what are some patterns that you help people with that can help divert that?
One of the biggest things is our breath, right? So when anything scares, so just going to the whole how it affects your brain, is you're in fight or flight mode when you're having a panic attack. There's nothing, unless there is something chasing you or whatever, but you're literally in that fear of something's coming at you, and your heart is racing. That breathing, so if you can, first What are you thinking? What are you thinking in that moment? Then tap into your breath. There is a way of breathing. You can't see my diaphragm, but many of us breathe here from our chest.
Yes.
And learning how to control our breath from our diaphragm and taking those proper breaths. So there's a way you can inhale for a count of 3. You hold it and you release for the count of 6. You can do that for 10 times and you will naturally calm yourself, feel that calm center. Yes. Then you can do it for 4 and the count of 8 out. So catching yourself and learning how to control your breath is huge when it comes to panic attacks.
Right.
Again, your thoughts, what are you thinking? Are you really in danger? What's stressing you? What are those triggers?
Because most of the time, Annette, it's, the mountain lion's not chasing you. It's your own thoughts that generally are causing these things, right? Yes. Your thoughts, your reality. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, if you can catch yourself before you go down the rabbit hole and do this simple breathing exercise, and I've done this as well. It's fantastic exercise, everybody. And I'll tell you now, I guarantee Annette, because we don't teach theory, we teach things that we do ourselves, has done it, and that's why she teaches it, because she knows it works. Mm-hmm. So is there, when you see the pattern, you do the exercise, is there something else that you can shift your focus to, or what do you suggest from there?
You can also, there are many things personally that get moving, like action, get your body moving. If you're sitting down, get your body, that movement, whether if you can get outside, connect with nature, take a gratitude walk, like literally instead of having earphones on, listen to nature, listen to the birds, listen to the sounds around you, look at the leaves, look at the beauty of nature around you. That's a natural soothing effect. Music is key. Like I love tapping into music. Someone here wrote vitamin D. Yes, there are definitely supplements that you can take that help with that. And then you can, sleeping is another way, right? Sometimes we're just stressed. There's many times stress is an underlying reason of why the anxiety is there, why the panic attacks are there. So understanding what is that you're doing for yourself. Exercise is key. You don't have to be that gym rat, but put that into your day. The sleep is great. There are many little things that you can do. They're little hacks. It's not like all day and I have to have everything perfect, but what are you doing? And understanding your triggers. So the other day, I've been able to avoid panic attacks for many years. Like I can stand here today and say, I no longer allow myself to have a panic attack. Do I get anxiety? Absolutely. But understanding my triggers. So once I feel that and understanding my body and understanding what's happening, I'm able to, again, get that movement, play with a pet, right? Get on the phone and have a conversation so you can get out of your own thoughts, get out of your own head, and break free of that.
Yeah. And I love what you brought up, all of those, first of all, because they all work, right? It's change your physiology, put your shoulders back, stand up straight, take breathing, getting outside, my wife actually is the one that said about vitamin D, you're getting outside, you're in that sun, you're getting your vitamin D. And here's another one that I'm really learning more and more about is take your shoes off and run your feet through some grass.
Oh, yes.
That grounding and just getting back to nature, like you're saying, listening to the birds, or, my wife and I live out in the foothills of California, and we all the time, in fact, this morning, she's sitting out there and just nothing on, just listening to the birds.
Yes.
And just kind of getting back to nature. And it's such a grounding effect that, I think, for me, when you do that, the more you do that, the more you are grounded, literally, and centered.
Absolutely.
So the other thing I'd like to bring up that you brought was fantastic is the feeling of excitement and good anxiety is the same. When I'm coaching people, I go through an exercise with them of think of something that creates anxiety for you to a level of 2 or 3, just some minor anxiety. Where do you feel it? And then I do a pattern interrupt, and then I do the same thing with a good feeling. And the excitement is always, in your belly, in your chest, that it's the same feeling. So I've learned for myself, I conditioned myself to literally change what I'm thinking is anxiety. It's actually excitement for what it could be. And I think it's a great tool myself, and I use it all the time.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
And one of the other things I was going to mention is, again, like tapping into that understanding of what's happening with you. So the other day, again, I'm still doing the accounting work, right? So the other day, I'm, timelines and things that are happening in that upcoming trip and everything, needing to be done now. I felt that palpitation start up, and I'm like, oh no, this is not happening. And I did exactly that. I got outside, tapped into nature, and I was able to break that pattern. And that pattern interrupt that we know, that stop technique, works wonders also.
Yeah.
So I love that.
Absolutely. And you're in New Jersey, New York, and it's such a beautiful nature area. We were talking before we get on here, and people think of New York, unless you've been there, or Jersey, think of, it's this concrete city. But outside of New York City, it is nothing but trees and just beautiful. I remember the first time I drove there, and I, came through the trees, before you get into the city, and this big city's there. And it's like, where did this even come from? I was just in woods and nature. So you have that, everywhere around you. So I'm happy for you, my friend.
Thank you. And another thing, you mentioned taking your shoes off. So here in South Jersey, the beaches, all year long, I don't care how cold it is, I head to the beach, listen to the waves, put my feet in that cold sand, but I'm there, I'm connected.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So let me ask you, so we talked about, anxiety and panic attacks, and when it comes to your brain with these kinds of things, I know you're, the brain health and so on. So what happens when you start feeling that anxiety and so on?
So anxiety shows up in certain areas of the brain, mostly the basal ganglia, that anxiety center. So one of the things that's fascinating about also, again, Dr. Amen's work are the SPECT scans and how much blood flow or little lack of blood is getting to certain parts of the brain, and what that effect is. So when the basal ganglia is high activity, there's that anxiety. And one of my personal story is when I got my scan done, there's 2 sides of the basal ganglia, and one of them was elevated. The activity was high, but the other side was low, which is to me an indication of, okay, I have that balancing act going, right? Versus both of them being on high. Right. So there's different parts of the brain and how it affects us, and different elements and things that happen, and changing the conversation of mental health to brain health. Then you're curious. You learn about your brain. You learn about how certain things affect it. You learn about keeping it healthier. Dr. Amen's book, as you witnessed, every day we learn something new, and it's something where, and like you said, I'm actually going through it again for myself. I went through it, live on Facebook and stuff, but I'm actually going through it again because sometimes you read something and something else sticks out to you. But there's endless information about brain health that people can tap into.
So first of all, I miss you going live on those, just so you know. It's great information. So Annette was going through, for anyone that isn't aware, going through one page, and this is the way the book is set up, one page a day with a tip, or a learning, if you will, and it was just fantastic. And this lady, I don't care what time it was, where she was, sick, anything, it didn't matter. I commend you for doing what you did. You were always there for us, so thank you.
Thank you.
Fantastic. So when the blood flow isn't accurate or correct, I should say, what happens with I mean, that means that oxygen isn't getting to the brain correctly the way it should be as well, correct?
Well, depends on, well, the SPECT scan is strictly blood flow. So that's the indicator. But when not enough oxygen is getting to the brain, that's it can be very dangerous, right? So again, understanding to control our breath. So I know now, back then I didn't, I knew that the hyperventilating that I was doing because I was stuck in fear and, the heart palpitations and everything, that I was doing improper breathing. If I would have just, taken a moment,
right,
and been able to kind of take a step back, put my hand on my diaphragm, make sure it's getting filled up, make sure I'm releasing slowly, I would have gotten through those attacks much, much sooner and easier.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you for sharing and being vulnerable and this stuff. Anybody listening and now or in the future, this is so important. This is so important. When another tip I'm going to add, use the breathing exercises all day long. I mean, they're great. When they, I was just reading a study not that long ago about breathing, and when we're stressed, we breathe from our chest. Shallow breathing. We're slumped over. We're breathing that way. How does a baby, when it doesn't have any stress or anything, how does it breathe? Through the stomach, right? You see the stomach rising and going down. So when you notice that you're breathing in your chest, you may be anxious about something, and you may want to do a breathing exercise, calm yourself down, and get back to base level. So I just want to throw that in there. It's a great tool, or great study, I should say, that I just was reading up on. So breathing is just so important. Breathing properly and getting yourself to baseline. So excellent. So let's move past, if we can, into the good stuff, right? So we've been through anxiety, we've been through panic attacks, how to get yourself out of them. What's some tips? I know it's really important to, we're both neuroencoders, so here we go. Celebrate, right? To bring joy and feel joy and celebrate. I mean, every time we can, right? Because we don't do it enough as human beings. You have to really train yourself to celebrate enough. And what happens when you celebrate? You smile and all that. And so let's talk about that, if you will. You want to bring us through some of that?
So being able to incorporate celebration for anything, it can be the smallest. I mean, the other day a ladybug landed on me and I'm like, yes, she loves me, like this. Different things. Even with the work that you do, there's sometimes that the stress from work might be overwhelming. Mm-hmm. How can you turn that around into a celebration? Completing that task, whether anyone's looking, it doesn't matter. Take that hand, raise it up, pat yourself on the back. Yes, I did that. The brain, and we're talking about the brain. Those chemicals are released, right? Those happy chemicals, that dopamine, and your brain looks for more of that. It's looking for more of that throughout your day. Whether you're walking down the street and you can do a test, like, is that person, am I going to get that person to look at me? Set your intention, set that love to them, and you can see if they'll look at you and smile. You get that smile, you could do a fist bump. Yes, I got them to smile. There's different ways that you can celebrate so that you incorporate that into your those chemicals, get those feel-good chemicals going, and you get that brain looking for more of that. The brain loves to look for things that are good.
Yes. Love it. So, I'm going to tell a quick story. So when I first started doing neuroencoding, again, like you, we don't practice, we don't teach this unless we're doing it ourselves, right? So I remember when I first started doing this and changing have to or get to and or have to into get to change it into gratefulness. And I remember this one day, and it happened multiple times, but I remember this one day specifically. I'm just walking around and I'm going into Walmart. So, usually you go into Walmart, you're like, okay, I'm just focused. I got to get my this, I got to get that, I got to get out. And I just walked around and I did exactly what you're talking about. I was putting intention. Anybody within 50 feet of me, I was saying, I love you. Just genuinely, you know what? I love you. As a human being, I love you. And it's so crazy how many people literally I talked to in that store.
Yes.
And I'm not a shy person, you know, I talk to people, but it was amazing after reflecting back later. And I've told people about this story, how it just changed that day just by putting that intent and that love on someone else.
Absolutely.
So, thank you for bringing that up.
Welcome.
So, okay, let's go back. So celebration and that joy. So, you know, when you're in the middle of, and I'm just going to throw out a couple of quick tips if you don't mind. So, excellent. So when you are sitting and doing your work, like you had said, I'm gonna play off your tip because you brought this up and put it in my head. So when you have that tip and you're, you know, just finished doing something that you normally don't like to do. So you needed to call a client, or you finish an estimate, or whatever your work is for that day. As soon as you get done, or you just celebrate it. And like you said, the all the good chemicals happen, your brain looks for more of it. So the more you do it, so think about, if you're already thinking about celebrating before you make that call or you do that, how much more fun is that work going to be? Doesn't that change it from work to play?
Of course. Yes.
Yeah. So
yes. Love that.
I do that all the time. Do you do that? So things like that as well? Do you have anything similar?
Yes. Again, the accounting work, anyone who's an accountant, you know, it's numbers. You got those tight deadlines, and it can be challenging. So same thing. I practice what I preach. I'll set the timer. I have a timer, and I'll set it with strict focus for 50 minutes.
Yeah.
That timer goes off. I stop. I celebrate. I stand up, celebrate, and then I feel better in doing the next step versus sitting there for hours and just feeling drained and, you know, like, I don't want to do this. So it's something where we have to train ourselves. Are there times that it's not perfect? Yes. I have times that I might be working, something might be going on in my life, and I'm working through tears kind of thing. But being able to train yourself, train your brain so that you're not stuck in the negative for long. We're human. Things are going to happen. Life is going to come at us. So how can you train yourself and especially your brain to not stay stuck for long? Being able to break those patterns, being able to look for that celebration, being able to tap into that gratitude. So that.
Love it. Absolutely love it. And you know, that's something that I don't do. I don't set a timer to celebrate. Thank you. See, this is why we do this show. I do not set a timer to celebrate. I do for water. I do for everything else in life, you know, but I don't do it to celebrate. Every 15 minutes, if I were to just get up and shake my ass, we call it Astitude for anybody in the Neuroencoding Institute, or, you know, that we coach. I'm sure you say the same thing to people or teach the same thing. Yes. It is when you get up and change the physiology, because you're doing multiple things we've had in this conversation, right? You're changing your physiology. You're smiling because you can't get up and dance and shake your ass and not smile, people. It doesn't happen. Right. Look at me. I'm just thinking about it and I'm smiling. You know, it just changes everything. So I need to set a timer. Thank you, Annette. I appreciate that.
And another thing, now that you're saying that, we have that posture, that power pose. You could do a power pose to break your pattern. Eyebrows up, smile, like look silly. All those things, they help so much. They're so small, but they're huge. The impact is huge.
Love that. Thanks for bringing that up. So Annette, will you explain that power pose? We're getting close on time, but again, I'm in control, so let's play. So explain the power pose. So it's kind of like a superhero thing, if you will, please.
Right. So let's just say you're feeling down, icky, you know, right? You take your body and you put those shoulders back, put your hands on your shoulder, look up, smile. The brain, try it. Tell me, you can't help but smile. You know, whether you feel silly, whether that posture, whether it's that movement, yes. it just helps. It just breaks that pattern, and it just gets you going. And you know, whatever you're gonna do next, you have your you have that superhero stance, and you're like, okay, I can do this now. I can take this on. So.
Yeah. Superman, Wonder Woman, whatever it is for you, right? Yeah, that's fantastic. Oh, that's funny. So someone just literally said that. Yeah. So yeah, and literally, I found for me the goofier that I am about it, the more fun it is, and the more I laugh and giggle and smile, and it's just you don't come back from that in 10 seconds. You're sitting there smiling to yourself for 2 or 3 minutes at least.
Yes.
So great tips. So Annette, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Unfortunately, but I'm having too damn much fun. So Annette, how do people get a hold of you?
The best way is social media. Send me a direct message and I will get back to you. My email is AnnetteRamrattan@gmail.com. I have a Facebook page on Passionately Living LLC. And send me an email. Send me a direct message here on social media. I will get back to you, I promise.
Very, very good. Thank you. So I just wanted to put out there, Annette has what's called 24 facets of further, faster monthly calls. You want to talk about that just for a second?
Yes. Oh, I don't have my props. So I like to have props. I have my brain prop though. So the brain is, just so you guys know, the brain is this, but I don't have my diamond one either way, but 24 facets of further, faster. I worked in corporate for a very high-end jeweler, and I tried on some amazing pieces while I was there. And this shiny, the gems, the pieces, it came about one day where it's like, you know what? We're that gem. We are that gem. And we have those facets that make a diamond shine within us. So how can we tap into those beautiful facets and illuminate ourselves, illuminate our identity?
I love that. I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing that. So we need, please, 3 tips to get our veterans and their families further, faster.
Okay. Smile. Not only is it an expression, but I also have a success formula that falls behind that. Smile. S is for share your thoughts. M, master your moments. I, change that internal dialogue. L, love yourself. E, energy. Energy and celebration is in there.
Love it. Absolutely.
Second one, again, the breath. Tap into your breathing. You're in control, not only of your breath, but you're also in control of your thoughts. What are you thinking? And there's a quick poem I'll share with you. As I think, so I feel. As I feel, so I do. As I do, so I have.
Excellent. Very cool. Thank you. Thank you so much. So last thing is anybody, or everybody, I should say, top right-hand corner, there's a blue QR code up there. Please scan it. It's for free books. For our veterans, there's resources. There's all kinds of great stuff there. Please take advantage of it. It's there for veterans and their families. Please take advantage of it. And Annette, I just want to kind of end this with, this has been awesome. First of all, really enjoyed you. And I say this at every show, and I'm going to say it here as well. I'm going to say it probably every day until the day I die on this show. The most important resource we have is time. We don't get that back as humans. So I just want to truly say thank you. I'm honored you were here, and I'm so glad for your friendship and appreciate you as a person.
Thank you. I appreciate you too. I thank you for allowing me to be here today. And it was a pleasure. Pleasure.
Absolutely. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and we are out of here.
Thank you for joining us on another insightful journey of Your Thoughts, Your Reality podcast with your host, Michael Cole. We hope the conversation sparked some thoughts that resonate with you. To dive deeper into empowering your thoughts and enhancing your reality, visit empowerperformancestrategies.com. Remember, your thoughts shape your reality, so make them count. Until next time, stay inspired and keep creating the reality you desire. Catch you on the next episode.